Hi everyone, and welcome back to Jim Vernon Solutions and the Codecademy Basics series. We left off on the part 5 of the Welcome to Codecademy lessons, the multiple colors screen. I just want to remind you that one of the things we learned about Codecademy in that lesson, or that part of the lesson, is that occasionally we'll encounter hints, and we're going to encounter more hints on the next lesson, which is going to be Change Physics is the name of the lesson. But the main thing that we're learning here about Codecademy is that sometimes the instructions, as you'll see here, are broken up into parts, and Codecademy makes you run that first instruction before you can even access the second or third instruction. So it suggests that with these 3 instructions though, we're going to be changing the values on mouse response threshold, friction, and rotation force, which are elements of the code that are new on this screen. Again, we're not trying to learn all the details of JavaScript here. At some point, we'll try to make more sense of that, but that'll be less than the basic series, I think, where we're really just trying to figure out how to use Codecademy. So in the first part of the instruction, part 1, it wants us to experiment with the value on mouse response threshold. It gives us a specific hint of making it 150. You can see in the code itself, there's a comment, the variable controls the smallest distance at which the mouse will make the dots react, and it suggests making that from 50 to 150. Before we make it 150, let's see how it works. You can see that the cursor has to be pretty close to the dots in order to get them to react. If we make that a 150 and click Run, it's displaying, but notice my cursor doesn't have to be nearly as close. And if it gets too close, boy, it has a bigger impact, right? So it's changing that distance threshold. Let's actually change that back to 50. And the second instruction asks us to experiment with the friction variable, and it suggests keeping it between 0 and 1. It's at 0.85. And friction controls how strongly the dots try to return. So we can kind of see visually how strongly they try to return at the 0.85 value. Let's lower that. Let's make it a 0.25. Let's rerun. And technically, I think this looks like more friction, but what it means is they don't try to react as strongly, right? They don't come back as quickly. They also don't respond as much to moving the cursor in. You saw how much they were distorted before. So that's the impact of the friction variable. Let's change that back to 0.85 and run step 3, which is experiment with rotation force. And here the hint suggests, that was for friction. We could set a higher one, but in this case, there is no hint for the rotation force, but it says keep them small, like around 0.01. This variable controls how much the dots will rotate when interacting. Not sure we really see the dots themselves rotating much, but let's just, for grins, try going back here and making that 0.00 to 0.01, and now we should see them rotate a little more. Oh, and sure enough, yeah, look at them rotate. All right, so that's what we get just by going from 0.00 to 0.01. If we were to make that a 0.03 and run it again, I imagine there's going to be even more rotation. It looks about the same to me. But let's try, well, it definitely had a lingering impact. If we make it 0.05, I kind of want to push the limit here and see what happens when they go berserk. Okay, you can definitely see a lot more rotation with making it 0.05. In fact, it even got out of control, and now that it's out of control, I'm sure it's not really going to come back. So, but what harm did we really do here, right? We can always just reset the exercise, reset the workspace. I just wanted to teach you that aspect of Codecademy as well. And then finally, to wrap up this lesson, let's just reflect on some of the questions. And you'll see these sometimes at the bottom of the instructions panel. And in this case, I just want to point out each one of these links to a video. So these are helpful links to questions that coders ask about the exercise. So how can I think like a programmer? Probably a good thing to watch at some point, although it's not a part of this series. If you click on the link, you'll see it opens up a new video.
Hi, my name is Stephanie. I'm a software developer.
All right, don't really need much more of that. Just to come back in here, and that's the end of this lesson.